Here's a quick update. 69 Satellite Sport Satellite B-body, if you get the idea. So what we did here, there was some damage. Someone put a lot of fill. I went ahead and blocked this all out. The reason there's primer on the center like that, that is roughly where the black goes on this car. But it's the same as the video I did the other day where I was showing how to run the paint on the body line, well, primer, and you put it on thick and wet so that you can kind of catch the body line and see what it's going to do when the car is shiny. Kind of did the same thing with these. Basically blocked it out in every which way and flooded this area, caught the light. You come down and these were kind of squiggly. They're nice and straight now, and when it's wet you can catch the lights in the roof, the reflection. Anyway, it just gives you something to go by. The thing about primer, you give it a quick scuff and it all looks the same and your brain thinks it's flat. But you know, these are soft rounded edges, but you can see by that shadow even now it looks kind of crisp. But when that's wet, it'll really show it. So if you have a little squiggly in it or something, you can kind of take that out. Any waves. We do have a spot up in here somewhere. There's a little bit of a low, I think. So I'll block that out and touch that up. Right here, right here. It's like hail damage. There's a little bit here. You can see lows. We'll scuff those. They're so low if you run a straight edge. The high build will take that out. But there's a few spots. We don't want to depend just on the high build. So 2-3 spots we'll clean up and then high build that. You got to take the hood off soon. Epoxy underneath. Paint the underneath yellow because it's like burgundy or something. And of course this is all smooth. There's places we're going to put a little bit of fill. So we'll do that at the same time as the hood. This could get a skim coat just to fill the sand scratching. A little bit of, you can see this right here. But this was all wavy like a dumpling. So you can't have that. The other side was also the same way. It's smooth now, so both of those are smooth. This is where we did the wet primer. The idea is you can kind of come down and, you know, you can kind of come up. And when this is wet, you can follow that line all the way into the door. And it was, I was really happy with it at the end. In that video, you can see where the primer stopped, and this was just filled and sanded. Where now you see the primer here, and I basically did the same thing. I didn't want to rejam all this later if I don't have to. I might anyway, but I basically just set a piece of cardboard down here and I painted across that line with the primer just to see that line, make sure that was pretty straight. There was a wobble up there I had to fix. That's why I did it. This is where the trunk hinges popped up and they weren't bolted on right or something. They put dents up. We had to knock them in and fill it. This side is absolutely flawless now. At least I think it is. There's a little low spot right here we're going to fill. Primer might take care of that, but I'm going to be doing a bit of fill work anyways. Now this side was really bad, and I actually found right here there's a low spot here and up at the front. Everything's blocked together, so when that got knocked up and down and whatever happened, you could see where there was marks that had been hit before, where they probably tried to fix the same thing. They might have went a little low, but look, there's no tin canning, and that's the thing you got to be wary of when you're doing this. If you knock something in and if it doesn't have the right shape, you might have to heat it, shrink it, so that it doesn't, you know, do the tin can thing. So that turned out good. This side was already good. Body line on this side is pretty much what was right in the panel. It's close enough that it's just going to get high build primed and sanded smooth. This side was all good with the exception of right down in this corner. Need a bit of fill right there. The rest is good. Door's good. Both front fenders will get 2 coats of the high build. They don't need work, they just need high build and boarded out. Roof, basically this whole car is going to be primed and boarded out. So that's where we are on that. So don't be afraid to use up a little bit of spray. But now this is all going to get sanded again anyway, and pretty much 90% of that ends up on the floor, and that's okay. but it helps you see, right? So it's not like you're wasting a product, even if it ain't going to stay there. Good example of wasting product, especially if you're new and you haven't been doing this a long time. When I swept up my floor last night, I mean, you can see a little bit of powder behind the tire, but there was a lot of stuff here from boarding this out, and it looks like half a gallon of dust that I swept around from doing the quarters of this car. You know, it just looks like this little bit of stuff, but you do this a bunch of times, you board this all down. Well, here, I missed a spot. Look how thick that is. The whole floor back here was like that. So are you wasting product? Let me put it this way. Imagine doing every little spot, boarding them smooth to the panel. Well, what if the panel's got waves in it? So now you're doing it again and again. Now the way I did it is we basically flooded from, say, this was done separate with this. So we went from here this way to almost the door, boarded that. Then we fixed the door to the fender into that filler, boarded that. I mean, I did 3 steps in 3 steps. The plane is perfect. So now we can go around, fix anything we kind of missed, give it another blend or sand, whatever. Same with these. There's a couple little spots here and there. But I mean, that'll be like the final sand then, right? So it's all about taking steps away sometimes, right? Your time is worth more sometimes than money. Honestly, filler is not that expensive. If you look down the side of this car, I don't know if I can catch it on the camera, but look at that. See the little dings and dents and little wobbles. Sure you can. We don't want that. That's why it's important to do all this. And the other thing, keep this in mind. It takes a little time, not that hard. This door was done and good. It was like scuff and shoot, according to the customer. And he's not wrong. It's pretty nice. Back here, I took a bunch of the fill out. This was a brand new $700 and some door skin. He had another shop put on. We had to take it off and move it. That being said, there was nothing wrong with the outer finish. Even though it was a new door skin, it might have had waves. So there was actually a whole layer of filler on this door. And what I did here is I ground some of it out because I needed to put my filler on and match this so that this is all the same. And the nice thing about this, let's say your paint's not great. I'm not the greatest painter in the world by no means. But if you come to a car show or whatever, you're looking at a bunch of them together, there's always one that stands out, and in your mind it's like, ooh, what a cool paint job. But what you're sometimes seeing is that all the planes are perfect. They're harmonious. They're not all kind of weird. You know, you don't want them looking like a C10 Chevy truck where right out of the factory they were all over the place. I mean, they were work trucks, and that's fine. But I mean, I even when I do those trucks, I'll take the back edge of the cab, put a filler in it, set my door where I want it, and then match that filler to the door. One thing to keep in mind when doing that, you want to bring this out to the door. You don't want to bring the door out to this, because if your door's in too far, you're going to have a big fat ledge here, and when you open the door, you don't want to see that. So a little bit of fill, it'll just look like an edge. I mean, if you open it, you get a little chip, it'll chip the paint. But if this is out too far and this is in and you got to put a whole bunch of mud, Bondo filler, whatever, you chip that out, it looks weird. You open the door and you see that there's varying thicknesses, right? We didn't do that here. Like, there's a little bit, but that's going to, you know, the next time we put a little bit and sand it, we're going to go a little further. That's just going to be almost metal. And that's what you want on the door. You open the door looks perfect. What you're doing, once the door is real close to perfect, is you're bringing the quarter to the door. Now, on a car that you drive, say, every day, you can still do that, but you might want to loosen your catch to let the door out just ever so gently. This way you don't get stone chips on this edge. Same with your front fender. You can let it out just past the door just a touch, but I still do all this first, everywhere, and that way it's perfect, and that little bit you let it out doesn't throw off the reflection too much. Because at the end of the day, you look at the reflection, you'll see the background, grass mountain, whatever. It's going to come through here. And if the door is really weird, all of a sudden it's like, whoop, it's way down here. Like, you don't notice it so much. Like, it's not obvious, I should say. But when you see 4 or 5 cars all lined up at a car show, the one that's like that, there's just something how it draws your eye, and it's got to be perfect. The gaps are okay. It's straight. I mean, a little bit of paint being not the best could be slightly forgiven if everything is super straight. It kind of makes the paint look better than it is. So that's something to note. Little bit of work to be done on the door there where I did the same thing down here, but it's like 90% there. Case in point, let me come out to something that's not an extreme show car or anything like that. How well can we see this guy? If you look at the reflection in the side of the truck, you can see the shadow where I'm standing. See it move? But look at where you can see the reflection where the fender and the door is almost the same. This truck is just done okay, but the fenders, the doors were all sanded together, and it gives you an illusion that it's nicer than it is. Same on this side. My camera work probably ain't the best here. It's because what I'm looking at in my phone is dark, but I think you can see what I'm kind of showing you. So this truck was a so-so truck. Yeah, the yellow in the inner wheel well, that was from some other paint job from before I got it. We're going to change those out, put some clean black ones in there. Junkyard's got lots of that stuff for these trucks. But hood, all the gaps, things on this truck were done pretty good considering this is just a 2005 truck. It is a Rumblebee, but even so. We'll do the box grill bumper soon and get this one together. But you can see that reflection. It doesn't stagger, right? So that's kind of cool. And everything has the same plane. So even on a, not crazy show car vehicle, you can still pull that off, and it makes the truck that much nicer. Anyway, that's it for today. A quick mini review on this. Ingersoll Wren 2340, 2-stage, squashes half the air there, the rest there, right? Not real loud, put it in last summer. That was expensive. 5-horse motor. Yeah, this has been great, non-stop, minute and change, and it goes from nothing to full. It more than keeps up, and I sand, I grind, I cut, I use all air tools. This keeps up. It's on an old Omega 60-gallon tank. That's just an estimate I got sitting there. Yeah, what was that? It would have had a 3-horse Chinese double. It sounded like 2 jackhammers going. A little quieter, spins faster. I learned that these got to run a 6-inch. Maybe I can show you that 6-inch pulley on the motor to get this to the RPM where it needs to be. You can run a smaller one, but then it just takes longer to fill. This is where they're happy. Now, if you run a 4 or 5-inch, it does run a little quieter. But I mean, this is pretty quiet, not like the jackhammer stuff that I'm used to. Anyway, this is expensive, but this is good. If you have a tank and a 5-horse motor, comes with that, comes with a bunch of oil and everything. I'm happy with this. I had an old one, it's kind of wore out. We found out it was a gasket issue, but at some point I just said, you know what, put a new one on, done. I went and got this, hooked it up myself, copper line from here into the tank. Arguably that could be soft copper, but I had that kicking around and that worked. this works really, really well. I'm happy with this. I mean, it's sitting here static at 120, so when that drops down, I think I have it at about 115 to 118. That'll kick on, come up to about 150. Now you can run these up to 170. This tank is rated, instead of 200, 175. So I think it runs up to about 145. And anyway, recovers quick. It's more air than I'll ever need. If you're thinking about something expensive, now you can buy the Ingersoll Rand tank, the motor they use. Replacement wise, it's a $900 motor. This is $400 or $500, maybe five something. And this is just your what is it, US motor, right? Which is fine. These are good. You're in a really, really, really moisture-ridden, dirty spot. Maybe you want a sealed unit. For what I do, I think this will be okay. But I mean, I think they're what, like $3,500, $4,000. You can get everything together. But if you've got a good tank and a 5-horse motor, this is under $2,000. Go buy this. This is good. It works. Anyway, that's it for today. Cheers.